what the land means to me is it's the home of the people who were here before us and those people. So it's about the past. Where we walk is where other generations have walked.
One of the most important things about life is stories. It's about experiences, places that we've probably never been to before, stories about Na'a, the land. And those stories are very important because it shares with us the things that we need to know about life. In our teachings, we always go back to Mother Earth, Na'a, and this is part of it. And coming here, making that connection and that kinship with the land is where you really begin to feel the sacredness, the heartbeat of Na'a, which is very important. And that's where the source of life and our way of life begins.
So you're welcome to turn your cameras on at this time. There is a four-part series to the land acknowledgements, I believe, so I will put that link in the chat for you if you're interested. And I'm going to mute myself and try to navigate the chat room while Donna takes us forward.
Sure, thank you so much. What a beautiful acknowledgement. I haven't seen it before, so it gives me great pride to see the work that's been done since I was in the Indigenous lead role at Rocky View School Division. Gosh, must be going on 10 years ago. I worked with all the schools, all the 40, is it 41 schools in Rocky View? There's probably more now since.
54, I think.
How many?
54, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the role was pretty, it was pretty huge. It was all encompassing. And most days it was, it's not a one person position, that's for sure. So I'm really glad to see that it's come to fruition, because land acknowledgement was, I don't want to say frowned upon, but certainly we didn't always practice one when I worked within the division. So it's really heartwarming to see that it is there, alive and well. And I'm really interested in seeing the other pieces to it, which is important. You're so very lucky to have Randy Bottle as an elder that you work with in your division. He is certainly well respected and well regarded. And as we always used to say about Randy, that we need 100 of them to work across all the divisions in Southern Alberta. So you're very fortunate. And Clarence Wolflag Jr., he used to be one of our assistants at Siksika Nation High School when I worked there. So I know the man very well. So I guess workshop today is just really around the foundation of reconciliation. And then of course, My big compassionate area is TQS5 and how we embed that in our everyday practices. So, we worked really hard to create many resources to support you educators on your journey. So there are tons of great pieces out there. And so actually, if I have to say anything, it would be that there are almost too many. And where do you start, right? And so for me, I like that we talk about reconciliation first, because you really have to unpack where you're currently sitting at with reconciliation, and what your beliefs and your values and are moving forward in this journey, because it is a personal journey. It's not one that we say you start here and you end here. It really is collective and it's ongoing, and you just continue the learning. And so to me, that's what really reconciliation is about. If I was to share my own opinion, it's unpacking the wrongs that have been done and how to move forward in a positive way, or as Randy Bottle will say, how to move forward in a good way. So I think that this is one step that you're taking in the journey of reconciliation, that you're here, you've joined this workshop, and you're making the commitment to do better. And so, Murray Sinclair says, education is what got us here, and education is what's going to take us out of here. So I'm really hoping that that we continue forward with this work regardless of a new curriculum, that this is still a TQS5 component that we need to achieve. So I think it's really important that we don't stall on those bigger pieces, but that we continue the work in a daily practice. And so I always suggest that we always start, with that literacy piece and how to unpack that first. So I've got a lot of great statements I can see that you have contributed. And so I think what we're going to do, Amber, is we're going to talk a bit about those pieces and where currently you're at, because it's important that you share and where your journey is. And then I think, our 45 minutes or so is going to go by really fast, but if you have any questions, to pop them in the chat box, and we'll take them from there. So we'll leave it very flexible, very fluid, and I'm open to many questions. And I love Rocky-View. I did 15 years working with the division, and then was seconded into the role I'm currently in. So when we started this journey in education for reconciliation, we wanted to talk really about our 3 years in the role. And so the first year was all around building foundational knowledge. And foundational knowledge is really that application of knowing about the historical perspectives of Indigenous people, not only here in Alberta, but across Canada. And so, of course, we start with the context of where we are currently, which is Treaty 7. And the nations that reside here in Treaty 7. And so I too am a visitor to Treaty 7. I'm actually from Treaty 6, which is in northern Saskatchewan. But I've been here in this territory since 1990. And so I've got a lot of background here, as well as Treaty 6. I take great pride in being Métis and being First Nations, and then of course being Cree, because that's my background totally. And so I hope I bring some wise words to you about, how we can move forward. I am not keeper of all knowledge and never profess to be. And as I say, I too am a visitor here. So I'm always, I always honor the spaces in which we work. And in this area, the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda Nations. And I've been so privileged to work with all three. My area, I think, of compassion and expertise is really working with Indigenous students. And I've always made it a priority, no matter where I've gone and what I've done. So having worked with all three nations, I've made a lot of great friendships along the way. And what I have maintained in this work is my role with the elders and the knowledge keepers. That's so important, to always have that Indigenous voice that's authentic. It's not me saying, oh, this is what you should do and what you shouldn't do. It totally isn't that at all. It's pairing your ways of teaching with that Indigenous voice, which is really where we want to start, right? So to me, that's what reconciliation is. It's a little bit of all of that, and it really is moving forward with Indigenous voice and pairing Indigenous community with what you do. So sometimes it's not always possible. I understand that, but I think if we start anything, that we honor the places in which we're at, and always starting with a land acknowledgement is really crucial. And so I say, if you're going to, if you want a starting place, is to start with land acknowledgement, and also to start within a circle process. And I know that we cannot do that given our circumstances, but certainly we do talk about the circle model and how it really is an Indigenous knowledge system. And so when we created the Weaving Ways resource, that was one way in which we embedded, and it's a place to start. So I say, start with a land acknowledgement every Monday morning, and then end your Friday afternoon with a land acknowledgement. And you do that in a circle formation. So everybody has a voice, and certainly, it's a starting place. And then you create your own land acknowledgement with your own student classrooms. I think that's a good place to start. And that way you have contribution from everybody. And it's a way to embed and weave in some of the knowledge systems of Indigenous peoples. So to me, that's where you start. There are no other places I would start. And I certainly know that just having those conversations with your students about, this territory in which we reside and how very fortunate we are that we have treaties. And treaties are not always looked upon in a favorable, positive way. Certainly, I know I've learned along the way that, we try not to acknowledge a treaty, but we acknowledge the ancestors, the elders, past and present, and that we acknowledge the lands in which we currently are residing. So, and as I've said, we've all benefited from treaty, because we wouldn't be here today if treaties weren't in place. So with having said all that, I'm going to pop over to that document that was shared with me, and I know it's. I'm hoping that many of you had a chance to pop in. It was a bit of a survey about where you are with reconciliation, and I know that I don't want to forget her name. Is it Alicia? Yes. So she says, we talked about where to start. And so the question I always say is, what does reconciliation mean to you? And there's a lot of decolonizing comments in here, and that's perfect. That's what we want to do, is we want to unpack. But I really enjoyed, and I don't know if you have access to this document. Amber, do they?
They can't see the responses. I can share my screen if you want, and they can.
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. And then we can maybe go through some of them. And if people have any questions based on some of the statements and comments that were shared, we can certainly unpack a few pieces here. And then what we do have going as well is, and maybe we don't have enough time to get through some of this stuff today, but we want to share resources with you. And I always start with our Empowering the Spirit website, where we have a lot of our good resource pieces built and where they're all housed. And so we'll start there after we talk a little bit about reconciliation. And at any time, if you have comments, feel free to pop them in to the chat box. And one of your fine colleagues there, I can't remember, Amber or Marnie, will forward them to me, and I'll do my best to help you with the answers, or you can share them with me. So yes, absolutely, bringing in authentic resources, stories, knowledge to decolonize school spaces for reconciliation. And I think and if you've ever heard Randy Bottle share his stories, he's so very generous with his knowledge and his wisdom. And he doesn't ever put caveats on, here's what you can do, here's what you can say, here's how you can share. You'll never hear that from a true knowledge keeper elder, what they'll do is they'll share what's most meaningful for you. And I think if you really enjoy a story, or it really resonates with you, and it's really bringing a different perspective for you, then you would ask them, can I share this in my own classroom setting? Can I share this with my students? Can I share this with my staff? So I think having that permission is certainly key, but it's also not always are we able to take a story that we've heard and ask permission. So my rule of thumb is, if it's in a public domain, then it's public, right? And that you continue to share what you know to be authentic, I guess. So, and that's where we come in with the resources, because we've really gone through, we've vetted, we've created, and it takes a village. So when I look at that land acknowledgement, I think Rick Gaudio did a wonderful uh, bringing together of that land acknowledgement, but there was probably about 100 people involved in that process. So to always acknowledge that it takes a village in this work, and certainly it has in the work that we do. So it means recognizing and acknowledging the problems of the past. Absolutely. It also means recognizing that society has changed since many of these problems existed, and therefore they are all also must be an understanding of the culture that existed in the past that gives rise to many of the problems. Absolutely. And you know what we call that? We call that intergenerational trauma. And we have a lot of unpacking to do, and a lot of healing to do, and a lot of grieving still left to do as Indigenous people because of residential schools. They weren't a good place. It wasn't a good thing. They were purely created for assimilation. So don't ever let anyone share with you, well, they weren't all that bad, or not all residential schools were negative. And so I just kind of I'm astounded by flippant comments like that, because it was purely for assimilation and to get the Indian savage out of the child. So always keep that in mind. It's because that's really the foundation of what residential schools were. So learning together the importance of history and how it impacts us today. And of course, we talk about historical perspectives, and we really have created a lot of resources built around that. But we also have to say that we don't all live in that historical perspective, that we are alive and well, and that we have a rich and vibrant culture across Canada. So we have to keep that in mind, that we're not a group of people that lived in the 1800s. We are here, and we are thriving, as my mom says when she talks about that residential school story in her own life. So learning together, and then of course celebrating and respecting Indigenous culture while acknowledging the extraordinary damage that has been done over hundreds of years to peoples and their traditional cultures, actively highlighting and insisting on space for Indigenous people and voices everywhere. And thank you for that. I really appreciate your honesty, because sometimes it's really tough being vulnerable with some of these comments. And we're not certainly here to audit this. Certainly we're not here to pass judgment, but what we are here for is to reconcile the best way we can, right? And so I just want to say, and I had this conversation a couple of days ago with another group of teachers, and we talked about celebrating Indigenous culture and Indigenous history. And so my challenge to you is to reframe that, to revoice that our history is Canadian history. So to me, it's one history, and we share the history, certainly we do. But when we talk about how do you weave Canadian history into your everyday practice? How do you embed Canadian history into your classrooms? And so to me, it sounds a bit awkward. And so I think of it in the same analogy as, well, how do we weave Indigenous history? Well, you know what? You have a lot of learning to do. And so this is where foundational knowledge is really key into forwarding this work. So the more you know, the better you know, and the more relevant and authentic your own voices in teaching, knowledge systems of Indigenous people. So I don't know if there are any questions as of yet, Amber? None, okay.
No, not yet, but we have about 20 minutes. So I think one of the things we have to be mindful of is that Donna's with us again next week. So part of our goal today is to start unpacking the conversation around reconciliation and leave with some resources so that we can also come back next week and move a little bit deeper. So if if you have questions that come up after today, you can just let us know in cohorts and we'll document and we'll share them with Donna to talk about when the next time she's in as well. So.
Sure. And I know, Amber, I have to say, I have my lovely friend, Christy, whom I've met along this journey. She's been with me since at least 5 years now, since I've left Rocky View and have jumped headfirst into Calgary Regional Consortium in the grant work that really shaped this, this foundation of reconciliation since 2016 when I moved over. And so, I often say that our apology was in 2008. I shared and we witnessed that apology with a group of grade 10, 11, 12 social studies students at Chestermere High when I was there teaching. And so I think, gosh, here we are in 2021. Sometimes this work isn't moving as fast enough as I would like it to. And I think that people still have a lot of uncertainty as to how to move forward. To me, it's one day at a time, one lesson at a time, one story at a time. So I think of Christy because I know Christy has been here for a long time with me. And I want to get, I can certainly talk about the role in which I play, but I think when you have a colleague from your own division that talks about her own journey in this reconciliation work, I think it's really beneficial to you to hear it from a fellow teacher in Rocky View School Division, talk about the ways in which she's embarked on this journey, maybe what she's teaching, and what maybe some of the professional learning that you've done in the past. And so I don't want to put you on the spot, Christy, but I know that you've gone above and beyond to work in this role. So with that, I'm going to ask that of you to speak to your journey.
Are you talking about me? Okay, this is totally on the spot. I've had the privilege of attending lots of courses with Donna, and I have just been absorbing and just opening my heart and my mind and listening to stories. It is hard, I think, because I receive so much, and it is hard to then properly share what I have learned because I don't want to disrespect or get it wrong. So that is certainly, that's the tricky part. I think that probably lots of teachers feel is that you have a sense of it inside of you, but to properly get it out without in a respectful manner. And I believe that because everyone has a personal experience, and every time I go to a session or participate in something, I hear things that are so impactful but so personal. So I think it is hard to have a one size fits all answer or way, because everyone has experienced something different and maybe has a different vision. I think overall, maybe what I take from all of my time doing courses and celebrations is truly just having an open heart, period. Everyone goes through life. We're all human beings. We all have struggles. We all interpret things. We all have a different perspective or resiliency or hopes and dreams. But I think what connects is that we just need to have an open heart and be compassionate for people and the experiences. And it's for no one else to judge what your experience is. I think, so, and in this process too, it's just trying to be open to hearing truth. A lot of our past experiences or thoughts are based on perhaps lies, or just a different, like a government perspective, taking history and giving excuses for things that have happened because it was for something good, but truly maybe it wasn't. There is some ugly history in Canada, and to be open enough to hear it and to receive it, and to let some of the earlier learned history go and open up to a new way of a new perspective of this was history shared by a person on one side of the or just one perspective, but that history may not have truly represent what happened. And I think just just having an open way, sharing some of the traditional ways of knowing, and like circles, talking circles, having respect for one another. Just small ways that I try to incorporate things, but again, as it is tricky because you want to do it right, and you want to be respectful. I think overall, though, focusing on having an open heart and having compassion for other people, all human beings, and that is what unites us. So thank you, Donna, and
thank you. I appreciate your voice, because it really does. You do really bear witness to a lot of work, because you have gone on that reconciliation journey. And I call on you because I know that you're very confident in the area. And that you have done this work for the last 5 years. You really have. And so, and it's not that I don't recognize other people and other faces, but you stand out, because almost anything I have offered in the past, you have attended. And so you've made this reconciliation journey your own with your time and commitment. So I often share this Dr. Pam Palmater, and she's a professor of law actually at Ryerson University. She's also a Ojibwe, and she talks about her own journey in reconciliation. So if you get a moment, share to look her up on YouTube, and she has one little video. It's probably about 3 minutes in length, but the title of it is "If It Feels Good, Then It's Not Reconciliation." So, and her basis for the video is, it's to challenge you. It's to create those awkward moments around reconciliation, if you can. If there's a better way to describe it, that's how I take away from it, is look at some of Pam's videos, because she speaks authentically, honestly. She's a young Indigenous, very well respected lawyer, and has some great words of wisdom. So I really appreciate those videos. So I just share that with you quickly. And then of course, Justice Murray Sinclair, who also was one of the commissioners for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He's got some great videos as well. So there's good places to start. And some of those videos are even good to share if you're teaching in a higher grade level, or bits and pieces, even if you want to, with some of your younger people. But it's a great place to start. And so I thank you for that, Christy. I appreciate that. And then, so what we're going to do now is it's already, we have 10 minutes left. Is that what I understand? Yeah, how time goes by quickly. But what I do have is I want to take you through empowering the spirit. And, I'll just introduce it. There's a little video clip to it, but I think what I'll do is I'll take you to the literacy seed kit, because there's great pieces in there already built. And I don't know how many of you, maybe just a show of hands, have been to that site before. 3. Okay, good. I caught you on a great day to take you through a resource that's parked there. It's where all our work sits, and we embed other school divisions work there as well. So I think I'm going to just Can you share that screen, Amber? And have you pulled up the Empowering the Spirit? Yep, good. I'll let Amber pop us in there. So if you scroll down a bit, Amber, yeah, this is what you'll find on the site. And we've navigated it with some real good language, just starting your journey, where to start. There's lots of great pieces in there, digging deeper, and then always there's other links attached to those areas, and then leading the learning, supporting staff development, district practices, and then there's tons of great resources from Alberta Education as well. Classroom supports. This is where we have our Weaving Ways product that we created, and so we talk about ways to weave the pieces into your classroom. And so those are the 4 areas there. And then the story of this site, it's really been great work in fruition. And when we created it, we wanted to make sure that we use the symbol of the turtle, as we once know Canada to be Turtle Island. And so we really want to make sure that it's a creation of many Canadian stories and narratives. So, and there's our Education for Reconciliation work that we've done. And so really what we've created is resources that empower, Indigenous ways of knowing, but really it's not just for professional education, it's for all staff of a school community. So we've really made sure that it's inclusive to all learners. So that's where you'll find, we do have a guide that kind of will pull you through and show you different areas within this Empowering the Spirit website. So thank you for that, Marcia. That it is a great site. There are a lot of good pieces. There is a little video, it's probably about 6 minutes in length, that will sort of take you through some of the learning. And but what I'd like to do is, if you go to our little search engine, there is one built up over, if you scroll up. Yeah, and just right there. And if you just pop in Literacy Seed Kit.
Literacy Seed Kit or seed, like
seed, yeah.
Like SEED?
Yes, yeah. There we go, yeah. There's great stories in there. So if you look right here, it's a collaborative partnership. And this is from, can you pop up again? Northland School Division, Edmonton Public, and Alberta Ed. And there are 76 books in this collection. And there are a wide range of genres, but there's also a great, in each book is attached a lesson plan or a teacher guide. So tons of great stuff in here. And one of the key things about the work is you really have to take the time to dig deeper and look for resources that will fit your own context in your own classroom. So if you go down, there's great pieces in there. What I have to do is we work through this quite often. And so there are many pieces to come forward from other Indigenous authors, just even here in Alberta. So like I say, it goes K to, I think it's K to 12 is what it said. Yeah, and it should be. So you'll see all sorts of pieces in there. I love Fatty Legs and the author there. Right there. And maybe you want to open it, but it really is a great place to start because you're K to 4. Maybe that's a good area for you to, we'll focus on here. There we go. And so this author, and particularly Christy Fenton and Margaret Pokiak Fenton, they've created several books, and then of course all the links that go with it for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Lots of great resources about where are the children. We were children, and so it attaches all the general outcomes to the different content areas in your classroom. So there's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So lots of good pieces here with the learning outcomes. So be sure to to take a look through, because, I often say we want to make this work sustainable. So we don't want to do just a one-off. It's important, of course, that we recognize Orange Shirt Day, but we don't want it to be the focal point of our Indigenous weave for the year. It really is one story and many, many stories that you can share. And so, I'm fortunate, and Amber and I talked about some of the land acknowledgement pieces that Ambrose University students created not long ago. And I'm fortunate to work with those students, with the pre-service teachers. And so my gift to you is that these teachers are, they're just so motivated to do well. And of course, they make the work into Indigenous, that weave, so effortless and seamless that it's just one story that you share at the beginning of a science lesson, or you talk about an Indigenous artist with your art lessons. So there's just really some really good pieces there that you don't have to create a mega unit for the month of March. That is that you would do it from September right to June, and you do it with a shared story. That's really how you start. I love that land acknowledgement piece that they've done on YouTube. So if you get a chance, watch. There's a lot of them have created some wonderful acknowledgements, and it really does give you some food for thought as to how you can do that within your own classroom. So with that, I know it's 10:58. So I want to just end there. And I see if you have any questions, absolutely. You know what? I have email address. It's just dross@crcpd.ab.ca. So if you have any questions or something has popped up and you want to know or talk further about, feel free to send me a message.
Thank you, Donna. I know this has been a big starting conversation in a lot of the cohort work. So again, thank you for being here. That's the first step, is to come and start joining these conversations. Like Christy said, right before you all joined in, Donna and I were talking about being here with an open heart and an open mind, and that's so much of us coming together. So I will gather all of the resources that Donna mentioned and the names of the people that she said to maybe check out their videos and their books and their resources. And I will make sure that that comes into cohorts next week so that you have access to that. And then hopefully those that are continuing this work and conversations can join us in the next time that Donna is here. And as well, we're bringing in Kathy from Crawford from Ambrose to bring in that student teacher perspective. So we're kind of bouncing some ideas around how do we bring in their voices to share what they've been doing and to share those little moments of weaving into their daily practice and practicums that they've got to start exploring. So that could be some really powerful learning opportunities coming in a couple of months once they're in practicum right now. So once they move back into class, we'll get that organized to share for PL as well. So
that's great.
Thank you, Donna, so much.
See you next week.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Amber.
Yes.
Amber, very really quickly.